The Rail King Mobile Railcar Mover by Stewart and Stevenson Engineered Products, a leading manufacturer of high-quality specialized industrial equipment serving an international customer base. The Rail King has proven to be the most reliable, most efficient, and most cost-effective mobile railcar mover in the industry. The following basic instructions have been produced in an effort to help familiarize operators with the general operation of the Rail King Mobile Railcar Mover. Because operating conditions and situations vary widely in the many industrial applications that use mobile railcar movers, this presentation is not intended to substitute or omit any safety or site-specific procedures that may be in place at your job site. We encourage you to review those procedures with your supervisor and become very familiar with your specific site safety rules and regulations. Before operating the Rail King, you should be familiar with the operator's handbook and manual, which should be carefully read and understood. Also, you should not operate the vehicle unless you are qualified and authorized to do so. The Rail King is designed to provide years of dependable operation if you follow the procedures outlined in the operator's manual. At the beginning of each work shift, you should inspect the Rail King before putting it into operation. A sample of a daily checklist is included in the operator's manual. Walk around and inspect the vehicle for damaged or missing equipment. You should ensure all warning decals and signs are in place and in full view. Know and obey all warning decals. Visually check the retaining bolts of the steel rail wheels, making sure none are missing or loose. To prevent the accumulation of water in the air system, it is important to drain all 3 air tanks daily. Check the tires to make sure they are not damaged or underinflated. Look for cuts and cracks in the sidewalls and foreign objects in tread. Check condition of train air hoses, fittings, and seals. Visually inspect the coupler assembly. Ensure coupler knuckle moves freely. Look for any signs of damage that may interfere with normal operation. Make sure the coupler beam is properly lubricated. Inspect the drive axle for leaks. Visually inspect the mounts for any signs of unusual wear. Repeat these same checks for the coupler assembly and drive axle on the opposite end. Look underneath the vehicle and check for leaks of coolant, hydraulic fluid, transmission fluid, or lubricating oil. If significant leaks in any of these systems are found, repair them before operating the Rail King. Check the sand boxes to make sure they're properly filled. Add only clean, dry sand if required. Continue to check the remaining rail wheels and road tires. Inspect the brake master cylinders for leaks or obvious signs of damage. Check the hydraulic system reservoir sight glass for proper fluid level. Hydraulic fluid should be between the marks on the sight glass. A low fluid level indicates a serious leak in the system. All leaks should be repaired before operating the Rail King. Inspect the train air compressor for obvious leaks, loose fittings, or other defects. Note conditions of hoses and cables. Once these inspections are complete, climb up on the platform and open the engine access panels. Check that the engine coolant level is approximately 1 1/2 inches below the top of the radiator fill neck. Add coolant as necessary, but do not overfill. Important caution: never remove the radiator cap if the coolant is hot. Hot coolant escaping under pressure can cause severe burns. Inspect the engine compartment for loose hardware, loose wires, and leaking lines or fittings. Check engine oil level and add if needed. Inspect the belt and hoses for damage or leaks. When all mechanical checks are completed, move to the inside of the cab. With the ignition switch turned to the on position, check the operation of the stoplights, tail lights, headlights, rail lights, and dash panel lights. Check the fuel gauge to ensure that the tank is full. Fuel contamination from moisture condensation on the inner surfaces of the fuel tank can be minimized or eliminated by keeping the fuel tank as full as possible. The fuel tank should be topped off at the end of the day's operation. When starting the Rail King, ensure that all nearby personnel and any other obstacles are clear of the vehicle. Check that the parking brake is applied and the transmission shift lever is in the neutral position. The unit will not start if the transmission shift lever is not placed in the proper position. To start engine, turn the ignition switch to the start position. After engine starts, release switch and allow the engine to idle. After the engine has run for a few minutes, note the air pressure on the reservoir gauge. If the pressure is below 60 psi, a warning buzzer will sound. Allow the engine to idle with the compressor switch turned on until the pressure has reached 120 psi. Check all voltage, amperage, temperature, and pressure gauges. Ensure that the alternator is charging correctly. When the engine coolant temperature reaches 160 degrees, leave engine running and check transmission oil level. The oil level should be between the marks on the dipstick. If low, you should shut down the engine and add oil as required. Make sure mirrors are adjusted correctly to get maximum visibility around the Rail King. Check operation of the air horn and the reverse road wheel alarm to ensure proper operation. If any problems are discovered during the pre-shift inspection, it is important to note those problems on the daily checklist and follow the established procedures for reporting those problems at your job site. As an operator, you can control the top speed of the vehicle, both on the road and on the rail, by using the shift limiting feature of the Rail King. This is accomplished by selecting the desired speed range of the transmission while the shift lever is in the neutral position. While observing the transmission direction and speed indicator, select the desired speed range by bumping the shift lever to the right or left. Once the speed range has been selected, simply shift the transmission in the direction of travel. The transmission will now only shift to the selected range. With the engine running, depress the foot brake pedal and push the park brake button on the dashboard to release the vehicle parking brake. Place the transmission shift lever in the forward or reverse position depending on the desired direction of travel. This is accomplished by pulling up on the locking collar and moving the lever in the desired direction. Release the foot brake pedal and slowly depress the accelerator. Shifting of the transmission is automatic and will occur when the engine RPM is sufficient to allow a faster travel speed. Steer the vehicle by turning the steering wheel in the desired direction. The vehicle is steered through the use of the rear axle, so care must be taken when maneuvering around personnel and equipment, keeping in mind tail swing. To stop the Rail King on the road, release the accelerator pedal and slowly depress the brake pedal. The Rail King should be put on the track at a prepared rail crossing with plenty of room to maneuver. Never attempt to drive the Rail King over the rails unless the road surface is near the top of the rails. Severe tire damage could result. Approach the crossing at a right angle to the tracks, turning the vehicle over the rails. With the Rail King parallel over the rails, observe the position of the left front rail wheel relative to the top of the rail through the front window. The flange on the rail wheel must be on the inside of the rail. It may be necessary to move and steer the Rail King to align the rail wheel flange in the proper position. When the Rail King has been correctly positioned over the rail, place the transmission shift lever in neutral. Depress and hold the front road wheel control switch to the down position. After the Rail King has settled onto the rails, continue to hold the switch until the front indicator light goes out. This will indicate that the front road wheels have fully retracted. To lower the rear of the unit, observe the position of the rear rail wheel through the access hole provided in the platform. Determine which direction the rear of the unit must be steered to properly align the rear rail wheel flange with the rail. Place the transmission shift lever in the desired direction of travel. Press the accelerator pedal slowly and steer the Rail King so that the flange of the rear rail wheel is properly aligned with the rail. When the Rail King has been correctly positioned, place the transmission shift lever in neutral. Depress the rear road wheel control switch to the down position, allowing the Rail King to settle onto the rail. Continue to hold the switch until the rear wheel indicator light has gone out. You should drive a short distance forward or reverse to ensure that the Rail King is securely positioned on the rails. Before moving the Rail King in any direction, sound the horn to alert nearby personnel of your intentions. When coupling, approach the rail car at minimum speed to avoid damage to equipment. Make sure no one is on or near the rail cars while coupling. Use extra caution when rails are wet or icy, since stopping distances increase under these conditions. Sanding the rails may be necessary if track conditions indicate a need for extra traction. Move the sanding control switch in the direction of travel to dispense sand. Stop short of the rail car coupler and perform the following procedures. It is necessary to align the Rail King's coupler to match the position of the rail car coupler for a proper connection. Make sure the coupler knuckle on the Rail King is in the open position. If necessary, depress the coupler release button to open the knuckle. To properly align the Rail King coupler, move the control switch marked Coupler Side Shift in the direction required to move the Rail King coupler knuckle so that it just clears the rail car coupler knuckle on the right. Next, to raise or lower the coupler to the desired level, move the control switch marked Coupler Raise Lower to properly align the couplers. Height is correct when the Rail King's coupler knuckle will enter the rail car's coupler freely. Move the Rail King gently against the rail car with enough force to close and lock the couplers. Momentarily reverse direction to make sure the coupler is locked before taking any weight transfer. If either of the couplers release, move the Rail King back into the rail car coupler with enough force to establish a positive lock. At this time, set up the train air brake system. Additional information on the train air brake system is provided in a following segment. You should perform the following steps when transferring weight with the Rail King. It is important for the operator to know if the rail car is full or partially loaded, or if the car is empty. Move the control switch marked Coupler Raise Lower to the up position, watching the rail car as the coupler is raised. If the rail car shows any signs of tipping, immediately stop and lower the coupler. When coupled to empty or partially loaded cars, use limited weight transfer to avoid lifting the rail car body from the wheel trucks. Once the rail car body is raised approximately 1 inch, stop lifting. Also remember, when moving more than one car, always couple to the heaviest car whenever possible to achieve maximum tractive effort. Manually release the rail car hand-operated brake. In some applications, it may be necessary to apply the train air brakes on the cars to hold them in position while the manual hand brakes are released. Move transmission shift lever to desired direction, making sure transmission has been set to the desired speed range. Be sure to sound the horn to warn anyone nearby your intentions to move the load. Release the train air brakes and depress accelerator slowly to start the load moving. The transmission will shift when the conditions are correct. Acceleration and travel speed should depend on the existing conditions required to move the rail car safely to the desired location. Be sure to sound the air horn as a warning when traveling across any crossing or walkways where pedestrians or other vehicles are likely to cross, and where in-house safety rules require its use. Once the rail cars have been moved to a desired location and before uncoupling, you should always manually set the rail car handbrake. To uncouple from the rail car, first release the weight transfer by moving the control switch marked Coupler Raise Lower to the down position to relieve all pressure. Before backing away, depress the train air charge valve to release the air pressure from the train air system. Press the appropriate front or rear coupler release control switch to unlock the coupler knuckle and at the same time move the Rail King slowly away from the rail car. Observe the coupler knuckle to ensure that the couplers are disengaged. Once the couplers have separated, release the switch. The train air hoses will automatically pull apart. To remove the Rail King from the tracks, proceed to the prepared crossing area. To operate the Rail King on road wheels, you should shift the transmission controls into neutral. Depress the rear road wheel control switch to the up position and continue to hold the switch until the rear road wheels have fully lowered, raising up the rear of the Rail King. Next, depress the front road wheel control switch to the up position and continue to hold the switch until the front road wheels have fully lowered, raising the front of the Rail King. Both wheel indicator lights on the dash will now be on. Place the transmission shift lever in the desired direction, slowly depress accelerator, and steer the vehicle from the tracks. After the last operation of the day, you should perform the following on the Rail King. Stop the vehicle in its parking location and place the transmission shift lever in the neutral position. Apply the parking brake. Turn the engine off by turning the ignition switch to the stop position. Ensure all lights and accessories are turned off. Close all cab windows and doors. Perform a walk-around inspection of the Rail King. You should report items such as unusual leaks, spills, or fluid losses. Check the couplers, body, tires, and other components for damage. Also look for missing parts or any equipment defects that could affect safety or subsequent operation. The following are a few basic safety practices designed to minimize the potential of injury to you, other personnel, and the Rail King. Remember, safety is your responsibility and cannot be established or regulated by anyone other than you. Anytime you climb the stairs to get on or off the Rail King, you should always face the Rail King to prevent an accidental fall. Safety shoes with pronounced heels are recommended. Use the crossover platform to move from one side of the rail to the other. Never cross between the Rail King and another rail car, between two rail cars, or under a rail car. Always bring the Rail King to a complete stop before allowing passengers to step on or off the vehicle. Do not operate or ride on the Rail King unless you're in your assigned seat. Never move the Rail King or rail cars unless the signalman is in full view. Two-way communications between the operator and the signalman must be established for safe and efficient operation. Railroad hand signals are used to communicate messages from ground workers to rail vehicle operators. As an operator of the Rail King, you should be familiar with the hand signals used when switching rail cars. The signals are as follows. Stop. Right arm is swung in front of you at a right angle to the track. Reduce speed. Right arm is held out horizontally to the track. Proceed. Right arm is raised and lowered vertically. Back up. Right arm is swung in a vertical circle at a right angle to the track. Apply brakes. Right arm is swung back and forth over the head. Examples of these signals are illustrated in the operator's handbook. You should study these signals carefully and know when and how they are used. Once you have engaged the coupler, you should always hook up the train air system. This system supplies air to the rail cars to operate the individual car brakes and does not control the brakes on the Rail King. Hook up the hoses between the Rail King and the rail car. Make sure the ball valves are open on the Rail King and the rail car. If you're connecting to more than one car, ensure that all hoses are hooked up and the ball valves are open between the cars. You must ensure the ball valve on the last car opposite end of the Rail King is closed. This will give you a closed system and allow the cars to be charged. Pull up on the train air charge valve to begin charging the system. Make sure that the modulating valve is in the full release position. Watching the train air pressure gauge after the air pressure has reached 90 psi, the train brakes will disengage. Before moving any cars, you should test the train air brake system to ensure proper operation. Move the lever on the modulating valve slowly towards the apply position. You will hear air escaping from the valve and the train air pressure on the gauge will begin to decrease. Once the pressure has decreased, the brake rods on the rail cars should begin to move as they apply the brakes. The lower the pressure drops, the harder the train brakes are applied. Once the rail car's brakes are applied, the rail car manual hand brakes can be released. The operator can now move the rail cars. Move the modulating valve lever to the full release position. This will increase the train air brake pressure and release the rail car brakes. Once the pressure has reached 90 psi on the gauge, the cars can be moved. To apply the train air brakes to slow the movement of the cars, move the modulating valve lever to the apply position. The further the lever is moved, the faster the pressure will decrease. It is important to note that the application of the train brakes does not happen immediately. Proper judgment of speed and distance is important. Once the cars have been stopped, move the lever to the full release position to move the cars again. Once the cars have been moved to their destination, push in the train air charge valve and manually set the rail car hand brakes. Uncouple from the rail cars and slowly pull away. The train air hoses will automatically disconnect. In the event of an emergency while the cars are being moved, the Rail King has the ability to rapidly apply the train air brakes. Simply push in the train air charge valve. This will dump the air pressure to the cars, setting the brakes. With the proper operation and maintenance, the Rail King will continue to be a reliable, efficient, and cost-effective mobile rail car mover for many years. If you have any questions on the proper maintenance or operation, refer to your operator's handbook or ask your supervisor for guidance.